Was up? Okay, folks. I woke up this morning. First of all, it's the day before 4th of July, my favorite holiday of the year because it's hot as hell and I get to go outside. And I'm usually drinking a beer or eating a burger, something like that. So I'm excited about the weekend, but I also woke up inspired because I recently got through like a trading scenario where I was trading a comic book. Was going to trade this for an X-Men one, and we'll take a look at it. But there's another trade that I made recently that I also wanted to kind of bring into context for this to share with you what I think about, what I go through when I'm trading comic books. And these are the 6 rules I use every comic book trade. And as the thumbnail suggests, rule 6 changes everything. It really does. Okay, so let's start with number 1. Every purchase, every single one, is a trade. When you are trading, when you're handing over cash for a comic book, that's a trade. You're trading money for a book. And the moment that you kind of start thinking about buying that way, you start asking the same questions like, because what happens is that when we fucking get into the zone and we want to get a book, we don't consider anything else. You don't think about what are you giving up to get this. So for this, let's say this is worth $8,500. Okay. This means that you, instead of buying this for $8,500, what you could get is about, let's say, I'm trying to do some fucking math here. Let's just say you could get like 35 shares of Nvidia for this book. That's what you're giving up when you're buying the Batman 232. And at 9.8 with white pages, I mean, come on. All right. But when you see like every purchase as like a trade, you're like, holy shit, well, how do I value this? Like, you got to negotiate with yourself first before you can negotiate with anybody else. Is this worth it? What do you want to do? And let me tell you something. That mindset is going to carry you throughout everything else on this list. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, start with what you want. So let me just give you kind of a little scenario here. A guy posted on Facebook that he had an X-Men 1 4.5 to trade. And he really values trading. He doesn't really want cash. He only values trading. And so I was like, that's interesting. I wonder what he wants. So then I basically engaged with him and I tried to find out what he wanted. And he listed some things, like a bunch of shit I don't have. So like he wanted ASM, other X-Men keys. He was obviously a Marvel guy. But then he said pre-code. And I got a shitload of pre-code. I got a shitload. And some of it's kind of pricey. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna throw my hat in the ring. Now, here's what he did right. He indicated what he wanted. He wanted to consider this X-Men 1 at $10,000 worth of value. That set the stage with what he wanted. And everyone else who's trading with him has to consider that. Whether it's worth $10,000 or not, You have to consider that's how he's valuing this book. And when you like take an offer, when you make an offer, when you state what you want, whether it's in comic books or life, you put the other person on the defensive, because now they have to react to your number, and you have already anchored the conversation. And it makes it really difficult for them to anchor the conversation in a way that they want. They have to evaluate your offer before they even get to make a counter. That's a real edge. And here's the deal, y'all. It costs you nothing to use it, so you should use it. So what's number 2? Start with what you want. Number 3. I didn't mean to yell there. Know the value of what you have and what you want. I know this sounds odd, but here's the deal. It's where like a lot of bad trades actually happen, is that it's really helpful. And in this industry, this business, you don't always have current comps for both sides of the trade. You know, a price guide from 3 years ago or some number taken during the pandemic, like that's not going to work. You really have to try to look for what actually sold and as recent as possible. So let me show you what I mean. Okay. So here is the X-Men 1 that I traded for, that I was trading for, that I saw on the Facebook. On the Facebook. And so we basically went through a whole series. I've showed him a bunch of shit I had. He told me like what he wanted. And basically through all the shit I showed, he's like, I like the Batman 232. So here it is. Here's my Batman 232. Well, it's not my Batman, but well, here's my Batman. But here's that Batman. Here's the Batman 232. So we see that there's a number of sales here. 8,500, 7,900, and 8,500 all this year. So we can reasonably assume that like maybe an 8,200, 8,250, 8,300, something like, if you want to average that, you're going to get there. But it's not too far off from the most recent sale of 8,500. And for me, what I anchored to was like, this is an $8,500 book. All right. So when we look at the X-Men 1 4.5, pretty similar. 8,500, 8,800, 8,600, 8,200. So we've got 3 sales for the Batman 232 and 4 sales of the X-Men 1 at this grade. And so the way I looked at it is that these books are basically even. And so I knew the value of what I was asking for. And by the way, why am I looking for an X-Men 1? I'm actually putting together a run. And here's the deal. It didn't start until like a few months ago. Like not even like after the beginning of the year, I was like, I want X-Men, a full run of X-Men 1 through 300. Honestly, fuck 350, fuck 400. I don't really want that, but I do want a run because I'm also working on a run of the 1991 X-Men's 1 through 40, all of them 9.8s, every single one. And I'm missing number 38 and 23. So if anyone can help me there, that's awesome. But with the older Silver Age X-Men, Silver to Bronze Age X-Men, maybe even Copper Age, I'm trying to put together a run 1 through 300. So that's why I want it. And honestly, I was like, I don't know that I want to own it, an X-Men 1. I mean, here's the deal. There's so many X-Men 1s on the census. Like here, just in 4.5, 4 of them sold. But you could also say the same thing about these 9.8s. There's like 80 on the census for this, for 9.8s. But not everybody wants a 9.8. You know, it's like there's probably 100, 200 of these on the census at 9.6. My point is, this is just a long-winded way of me saying, know what you have, but also know what you want and what the value of that is. So that's 3. So number 4, what does winning look like to you? Like before you make an offer, like decide what a win actually looks like for you. Here, let me do this for a second. When you make an offer, you've got to figure out what's the deal for you that you'll accept. You got to anchor. It's just like he's anchored the deal for what he's offered. You've got to anchor the deal for you on what you're going to spend or value. And for me, if I came away with this and I got the X-Men 1, it was going to fulfill a project I'm working on that I want to do. And I feel reasonably sure that if I didn't want to do that anymore, that I could trade it for something else. I really honestly felt like maybe I could trade it back for this if I wanted to. So for winning, what winning looked like for me is that as long as I got around the same value, it was good. And the thing is, though, if you don't define that ahead of time, 2 things will happen. Number 1, you're going to walk away from a good trade because it doesn't feel like a win. You haven't defined what your win is, and you're going to walk away from that because you haven't figured that out. Or you're going to talk yourself into a bad trade because you got caught up in the back and forth. Like, okay, fine, I'll just do it. And your purpose is lost. And you can't let your purpose be lost in anything you do, let alone comic books. So don't let the negotiation itself change like what you actually came for. So what's number 5? Don't make the other person lose. This is the one people skip. They just kind of want what they want and, fuck everything else. But I think it's the one that people remember the most. Either A, if they felt they lost, or B, they're going to fucking know that you helped them win. Case in point, I evaluated a collection recently, and it was a shitty ass collection. I mean, it was like mold all over it and shit, but she had some key issues. And they were all like these Neil Adams issues. There was a 232, but there was also a 227. And I looked at all these books and I pointed these 4 out. I was like, here's the deal. Just so you know, I'm really not interested in this collection. And I don't think you should split it up. But just so you know, these 4 books, it was like maybe 5 or 6 books. It was all the Neil Adams keys, Detective 400, Batman 232, Batman 234, Batman 244, and I think I said 227. So anyway, sorry. It was important to me that she knew, like if I wasn't going to buy the collection, I could at least be an advisor for her. I could at least help her understand what she had and what she could expect to get. Because I guarantee you, she had no idea. She inherited these books from an uncle who passed away. And, and he had a shitload of them, but he just didn't take very good care of them. And that's the thing. So here's the deal. Maya Angelou. I'm going to bust out some Maya Angelou on you. People don't remember what you said. They remember the way you made them feel. And if they feel great, and it's not your job to make them feel great, but it is your job to deal fairly with people and make sure they understand. They understand what you understand to a certain degree. Because a fair trade is a trade you can make over and over and over again, not just once, and not just because you got lucky or because the other guy's fucking stupid. Okay? So here's what I offered. He wanted, and this is leading into my rule number 6, which I think is the most important rule. So I offered the Batman 232 and $500 for the X-Men 1. Now, he wanted the Batman 232 and $1,500 for the X-Men 1. And I'm looking at these books, I'm looking at the value of these books, and I just don't see it. I don't see the 1,500. For sure, I don't see the 1,500. And I wouldn't have felt good about the trade if I had made that deal. Now, here's where we get into number 6. Value is not the same as liquidity. Guys, in this business, liquidity is really fucking important, especially if you need the money. Because you know what? If you had $8,500 sitting in your savings account, that's liquid. You could pull that out. You can do it anything. You do with anything you want. Same if you spend it all on fucking Nvidia. You can sell that shit and do whatever you want with it. There's underlying financial tracking for your purchase in those scenarios. Not so much with comic books. However, you can come close. You can come close. And so that's why I valued the X-Men 1 a little bit more, because I view it as more liquid. And I want to know what you think. If if maybe you think I'm way off, I would love to hear that, because, what do I know? But I'll tell you, this is how I evaluate things. And with value not being the same as liquidity, you can take two books that are exact same dollar amount. It's still not an even trade, because one of them you can turn around and sell in a weekend, and the other one you might sit for months waiting on the right buyer. A top of the pop gem mint slab of a niche book might be worth more on paper than a mid-grade copy of a universally known key, but if only a handful of people in the world are chasing that specific grade, you could be stuck holding it for a while, maybe forever, but certainly for a while. And that's why I'm like, if I'm evaluating this trade, I'm like, you know what? I want this guy to win. I want this guy to feel like he won. I don't care if he feels like he won the whole trade. He asked for 1,500. And so I asked to talk to him on the phone, because we had been dealing with this over like Facebook Messenger. I said, let's talk on the phone. And so we did. I said, man, here's the deal. If you still want to do this trade, let's fundamentally set where we are. It's the Batman 232 plus cash for the X-Men 1. Your X-Men 1, your 4.5 X-Men 1. Do we agree in principle? That's all we're talking about. And the only thing that we have to figure out is how much cash. He was like, absolutely. Okay, cool. So I'm like, here's the deal. You want $1,500. And I can't get there. I can't get to $1,500. And what I said was I can go $500. And that was my top. That was my top. And I wasn't going to go over there, because I'll proof is in the pudding. He came down from his 1,500 to 750. And I'm like, can't get there. Can't get there. Because I knew what winning was to me. And the winning was, listen, I'm willing to pay you $500 for just better liquidity, but these books are worth exactly the same, in my opinion. And that I think the data reflects that too. So I'm not going to give you more than 500 because 500 is what I'm willing to pay for liquidity to get something that, and personally, I think X-Men could be really valuable. I'm not saying that Ra's al Ghul won't be valuable, especially if they actually introduce Damian Wayne into the picture. But I think X-Men is going to be pretty cool coming up. So I was willing to do it, but I wasn't willing to do it for more than $500. And he walked away. Understood. It doesn't always have to work out. But if you use these 6 rules on like every trade, understanding, it's always a trade. Lead with what you want. Know your comps. Know what your win is. Don't fucking fleece the other guy. And most importantly, in my opinion, value isn't the same as liquidity. If you don't have as liquid a book, you probably should pay a little bit more. That's it. That's me imparting some value and some knowledge to you about what I go through when I think about trading. And if this was useful, please subscribe. Comment down below. I'll respond. Because I'll be candid. I got more of this shit coming. So that's it. I want to thank everyone for being here, especially you. And we'll talk to you soon. Cheers.